Hey guys, I am Ibigandscary. I'm bringing you another StarCraft 2 replay, this time featuring on the top left-hand side. Look at that drone go. Chaz, our red Zerg. Chaz is part of Heralds of the Apocalypse, a clan that's actually participating in the WCS, which is pretty neat. Pretty neat. The WCS Challenger League. That doesn't really mean anything. What it tells me though is this guy's at least Masters, probably Grandmasters, EU server. Red Zerg, top left-hand side of Iron Fortress. Overlord's checking out the right-hand side. Unfortunately for him, Forsaken is in cross-spawn location. Forsaken from NoN Esports. He is our blue Terran, also Masters, probably Grandmasters eventually. You know how the ladder lock can go. People who belong in one league can wind up in another league just because there's just not enough spaces in Grandmasters to accommodate everybody who's really good at this game. So we have it's a traditional matchup. This is Zerg versus Terran. There's not a lot to hash out here. This is a very, very, very large map. Really favors some early aggression from the Terran just because you got a lot of abusable walls and very open style places, which really favors your late game Zerg army, but your early game Terran harassment. So this is going to be exciting. It's going to be exciting. What's been going on in your life? I'm dealing with a thunderstorm right now, not of the Texas proportions, of course, but pretty significant over here on the East Coast, and you're just dealing with a lot of rain. I'm very terrified that my the storm's going to knock out my power, so we'll see what happens there. I'm also staring down the barrel of a 24-hour shift coming up in like 7 hours. I should probably be going to sleep, but I can't help it. I got to cast some StarCraft because I have a weekend. I had a whole Saturday off. I spent it doing homework, and now I had a moment to spare. I finished all my homework. I'm about to go to bed, and I had 1 hour before 10 o'clock, so I was like, hey, you know what? I can cast a StarCraft game. What's this? Forsaken sent me a fantastic packet full of all these different games, so yeah, I'm very, very excited to do that. Looking forward to doing that in the coming days. I probably only have enough time to do one tonight, but tomorrow. No, not tomorrow because I'll be at work, but Monday. But Monday, maybe I'll have some time after lab. We'll see. Barracks going down, up on the high ground, gas coming immediately thereafter, Reaper coming out from that, no surprises there, hatchery first build coming out from Chaz, and then a spawning pool immediately thereafter. Nice timing here, nice timing. Going to be finishing up right on top of each other, probably going to have enough minerals to throw down 2 queens right early on, which is fantastic because that Reaper's popping out just now. Queens will be finishing up just a couple seconds after the Reaper shows up, so they'll be able to shove them back, and I like this. Chaz, even though the spawning pool has finished, held off on producing that second queen from the primary hatchery, just so that he could stack up those queens on top of each other. And that tells me a couple of things. One, that Chaz really likes micro, and he likes simplistic micro. Oh yeah, I forgot. Forsaken has no idea where Chaz has spawned either. And in fact, Chaz probably knows exactly where his opponent has spawned now because he's going to be checking out this expansion. It's not going to see it, maybe poke in here, but more likely is going to be heading straight for the cross spawn location. I don't see a drone moving out from him just yet. Can we see? Yeah. No drone, no scouting pattern at all. And the Reaper is going to be showing up, is going to be popping in right whenever those queens pop out. And I love that. Stacking up those queens so we can get both larva injects right on top of each other. It just makes your macro so much easier, and it's a high quality play, setting yourself up for success and making it so that it's a lot easier for you to stay on top of your macro. Can't recommend it enough. Totally do that if you're Zerg. Don't do this if you're Zerg. Don't pursue if you're Queen. Getting frisky off of creep, not a good thing for your Queen's longevity, and that's exactly what's forcing this Queen to come down to actually deal with these Reapers. Is, you know, we don't have the creep connecting, and this Queen has to come down here to protect this Queen because the creep spread is kind of lackluster because those Queens just got out, and that's what I was talking about. Terran harassment is very much preferred on this map just early on until that creep spread gets kind of powerful, and make it so that these 3 queens can actually deal with those Reapers and shunt them back. Maybe once speed is done. We don't see even speed on the production tab, but we do have 2 gases being tapped. The mains not really been tapped yet. 3 Reapers out on the field right now. We're going to be seeing this reactor's probably destined for this factory. You're going to be seeing the Hellions coming out in short order. Orbital Command already on the low ground, snapping back to the action. 1 gas tapped, by the way, in Forsaken's base, and this is why he is that 3rd CC going up on the high ground, telling us it's going to be more macro oriented. Do we have a lair? Yeah, lair is being started up just now. Oh wow, a Roach Warren. Now this Roach Warren is probably a defensive Roach Warren. Is probably just so he can start to macro. Like I said, this map is very wide open, making it so it's Terran has a very easy job of denying that all-important third to Zerg. And you get this Roach Warren, you produce a handful of roaches so you can actually deal with that inevitable Hellion harassment. We already see the Hellions being produced right now. Starport also being produced. Would add-on, is it going to be having a tech lab? That's interesting. We'll see if there's an upgrade for that tech lab or if it's destined for the factory. I suspect it's going to be surely not a Reaper, maybe a Banshee? I don't know. We'll have to see. One Reaper does go down, a bit of a miss micro from Forsaken. Losing that guy is very important to keep him up until you have 4 or maybe even 6 Reapers out there. Again, that just helps you lock down this hatchery from going up. But the drone did manage to sneak out, and one of the Reapers did go down, and so these 3 Queens are actually doing a pretty good job of holding its opponents in check. 1-1 on the production tab, handful of roaches, telling me that +1 range is probably making it so that Roach Warren is not just a defensive Roach Warren. Probably that's going to be the mid to late game composition that Chaz is going to be using. So no gas being tapped at the natural, but the main has the second one being tapped. Yep, Banshee on the production tab right now. Bit of a skirmish, nothing going down just yet except for a handful of Zerglings. And now that Forsaken is aware that that third is indeed going up, and the third batch of Hellions is being produced right now. But this is what I was talking about with those roaches. Just a handful of roaches have no problem at all dealing with these Hellions, and so it's such a great play just to get a handful of roaches. Even if you're not planning on upgrading them, even if it's just 6, you can totally hold your own against not only all those Hellions, but also against the Banshee that's going to be coming up. Those roaches can really eat up a bunch of Banshee fire, soaking in a lot of that DPS, making it so that those Queens can actually AA down the Banshee eventually. So very, very powerful defensive play. I like it. I like it a lot, but Gleo Reconstitution tells me that there's much more in store for those roaches. This is definitely going to be his composition going forward. We have +1/+1 and stem being produced right now. No combat shields on the horizon just yet. I didn't miss it being upgraded. No, I did not. Fantastic. A Viking being produced too. That's going to be very handy. Again, this is a very large map, and these Vikings are being very pesky by pooping out a bunch of creep on top of these thirds. And remember, this orbital command has been done for quite a while. Quite a while. 55 over 55 for the harvester count. Zerg is on its third base, managing to keep that up just because of those roaches. Not a lot you can do with just a handful of Hellions. Even if this Banshee did want to get in there with the creep spread already connecting them, we see a Spore Crawler being produced at the third. Not a lot that Banshee can do, and I like the idea of not producing the cloak. He didn't go forward with the cloak. I wonder why. Did he see anything? Yeah, he didn't suicide in an Overlord. I wonder if Forsaken just... I don't know. Maybe he was just seeing that the sheer number of Queens, making it so that he really couldn't afford to invest a bunch of extra money into that cloak, where he wouldn't get a very good return on investment. But I'm not 100% sure what caused him to hold off against, investing a little bit of money onto those Banshees, make it so they can actually get those cloak, get in there and actually start doing those damage. Oh, you know what I bet it was? Is he saw the Spore Crawler being produced. I bet when he ran in here with his Hellions and his Reapers, he probably saw it being produced, guesstimated that there was going to be equal detection at every single one of the expansions, which there is, and made the correct decision of not wasting that money. So really just a solid read from Forsaken. It took me forever to get it, but I really like that. I really like this play, denying a bunch of scouting. Look at that. Now Zerg is completely limited to his quarter of the map, has absolutely no idea what's going on here, really opening up the doors for Forsaken to transition to some drop play, and that's exactly what we're seeing. I mean, we're seeing 2 medevacs being produced right now. We have a lot of bio out on the field, stem and combat shields already done. Nope, combat shields is almost done. Yeah, it's behind the nameplate. I apologize for my nameplate. Yeah, there you go. So there's combat shields. +2/+2 already being started for both players. More than halfway done for the Zerg guy. And this is going to hit like a ton of bricks. Oh, and here we have him moving out. A lot of roaches. 2-2 timing. Oh, just around the corner. He's also going to be timing this with his Gleo Reconstitution, but he's being a little ballsy because he's going to be moving in here, and 20 seconds until that Gleo Reconstitution is done. So Forsaken can take a pretty good engagement right now. A relatively good engagement with that speed. Look at this heavy Marauder count too. Fantastic. These Marauders are going to absolutely shred these roaches, and there's not a lot that Chaz is going to be able to do here. It was a pretty good engagement for Chaz, again drawing him out into this open field, getting a really nice concave on him, and adding in a handful of Hydras with that 2-2 finishing just now. Gleo Reconstitution already done. So Chaz is definitely browbeating back Forsaken, but remember, those Marauders are very, very durable. He has a fresh swell of Marines coming in from the south side. What he wants to do is draw Chaz down into this kill box and then attack from the left and the right. Oh, and this is perfect timing. Chaz moving in to intercept the reinforcements. At the same time, Forsaken pushes down the ramp. This is a nice split. He's going to have no problem dealing with all these guys on the left side, but Chaz is committing to the right side, managed to push them all the way back into the bunker for the hard point. And again, Chaz is just losing unit after unit. This is definitely coming out in the favor of Forsaken, because if Chaz wanted to, he could have pushed up here into the high ground and done a significantly larger amount of damage with his previously larger force. Here comes another engagement, pulling the boys for the SCVs, another fresh swell of stemmed Marines and Marauders from the backside, and this is actually going to succeed in cleaning this up to the point where Chaz actually has to retreat. This is not enough Roaches and Hydras to actually deal with the Terran war machine that's churning out guys, but he pulled the boys. 23 workers killed in the favor of Chaz right now, a significant economic loss. Forsaken does have that third orbital, which has been up for a while. It's been churning out a bunch of extra minerals, so he's going to be able to bounce back from this pretty easily. And even with just 50 harvesters, he's not in the worst economic state of his life. But I mean, 23 workers, 24 workers killed, that's pretty brutal. That's definitely brutal, and that definitely smarts on top of Forsaken. So not a total wash for Chaz at all. He did manage to take his fourth on the back of this, and it's double tap that gas. He's going to be able to transition into even higher tech, and we can see that reflected on the hive being produced right now. Hydralisk, Den, Roaches, not a lot else on the production tab. He needs to get that hive out so he can start on that the third round of upgrades. So this is kind of a stalling period right now. If Chaz commits to keep pushing forward, we can see that the infrastructure back at home is going to be increasingly more tech lab focused. He needs to be able to destroy all those Roaches so he can get to the juicy Hydralisks in the back, and that's what exactly needs to happen. Here goes the drop. I'm looking forward to the upgrade that the medevacs are going to be getting in Legacy of the Void, making it so it's much easier for the Marines to get dropped out, but this drop really doesn't do a lot. Forsaken was looking to equalize the economic position that he was at. I mean, take out a handful of drones, but because of the plethora of queens that we had back at home, a handful of Roaches, once again, filling that defensive capacity, makes it so that Forsaken's not really capable of doing that, which is unfortunate because that's where a primary strength of the Terran Bio Ball actually comes from. Chaz is being way too ballsy with this. I mean, pushing way far out of creep. Look at that choke point. Forsaken immediately turns. Not a lot of Roaches here. If he manages to crack this Roach shell, he's going to be able to get to those Hydralisks, and that is not going to be something that Chaz wants to have happen, because that would be absolutely brutal. So Chaz is being really ballsy. And, you know, he can kind of afford to do it. I mean, he's filling up a big bank. He's almost capped out. I mean, 190 over 192 right now. So a handful of more Roaches, handful more Hydralisks being produced, he's going to be totally maxed out. So now is the time to be aggressive. 3-3 is being started just now. What's the next step for Chaz? I mean, obviously more bases are great, but this is a pretty good engagement for him. A nice concave, but Forsaken with the defender's advantage, we can see more units being shunted in from the backside. He's just barely going to hold against this. All the Roaches are down. Even though that's a lot of Hydralisks still alive, Chaz cannot continue to be aggressive, and that's exactly what he's doing, and it's bad. It's bad because those Roaches get completely cleaned up by those Marauders, and the second these Hydralisks are exposed, they're going to absolutely melt to the combined fire of those Hydralisks and those Marauders, or Marines and Marauders, rather. Both players are kind of at a standstill right now. I mean, neither wants to walk on or off of the creep, respectively, depending on the species. But right now, I do not agree with Chaz just continually throwing his units away like this. He needs to fall back. He needs to cap out once again. He's got 10 Roaches on the production tab, 5 Hydralisks on the production tab. He's got 3-3 just around the corner. He doesn't need to be this aggressive. He's contained his opponent on 3 bases. Yes, there is another command center being produced right now, but there's no reason to be this aggressive. He's not in a bad position by any stretch of the imagination. 80 over 60 harvesters, which, by the way, really equalizes this. Now you look at 170 over 150 for the supply count, and you think that Terran is way far behind, but then you have to remember that Roaches are incredibly supply heavy. Also, there's a lot of extra drones back at home, and you know that bank is completely dissipated just so that Chaz can remax very quickly, and the fourth is being taken by that CC flying up to the north side of that main base. Not a lot of improvement to the infrastructure back at home. We do see that the upgrades have kind of stalled out. We have +3 armor being produced. I believe we're on +3 weapons already. Yes, we are. So yeah, the Bio Ball is almost completely maxed out. It's not going to get much better than this. He's probably going to be thinking about transitioning to something even higher tech. I've seen Thors being added into this mix, but not really effective whenever you haven't seen Mutalisks at all on the field. I wouldn't be surprised to see a handful more Banshees being thrown into the mix. Those can be incredibly powerful, and also some Ravens can really support this field. But really, this is the bread and butter unit right now. This is when Forsaken is looking to win, and so I think that we're going to expecting to see Forsaken to be very, very aggressive as soon as he caps out, taking more expansions, doing more of this kind of thing, this droppy kind of harassment, and we don't see any reaction out of Chaz at all. He's 200 right now. Nope. Yeah, still no reaction. He's spreading his units very, very, very well. He knows exactly that the Terran army is here. He's expecting Forsaken to push onto the creep. Forsaken is okay with just waiting because he knows that every second that goes on, he's beginning to build out that bank. Both players are totally maxed out, and frankly, this composition in a very fair fight with no creep, with good concave, can actually come out on top of this composition. You see, this is very, very roach heavy. Well, this is very marauder heavy, and marauders definitely win against roaches. And here we go. Is this engagement going to come out in favor of Forsaken, or will Chaz be able to resupply? Look at that supply count just immediately fly right back up. We were at 160, and now it's immediately back up to 190. That is just the power of Zerg right there, being able to resupply so very, very quickly. Forsaken should be able to turn this. He should have been able to turn and actually clean up these guys because half of the unit composition was split off, and the other half is having to deal with this very pesky drop. This is that primary drop that actually cleaned up this expansion over here. Once again doing work over here in the main, actually succeeding in taking out a healthy number of 8 workers for Forsaken. However, it looks like this guy's going to go down. Hydralisks on the low ground. Still no harassment at all. Look at that. Still no harassment at all from Chaz on top of Forsaken. And that's really bought Forsaken a lot of time. I mean, Chaz retreated with his entire army in order to deal with that, and now Forsaken is remaxing, resupplying, holding his opponent back. And on 4 bases, Chaz is beginning to get mined out. I mean, the main is totally mined out, so is Forsaken's. Natural is beginning to get kind of sparse. I mean, yeah, we're down to a handful of those mineral patches, but the 3rd and the 4th are very, very strong for both players. 3rd and 4th, very, very strong for both players. So it's basically anybody's game right now. We do see a hidden expansion on the top right-hand side, but we can note that the roach composition is significantly lighter. We're seeing a lot more Hydralisks, a lot less roaches, and I think he realizes that this unit composition is a pristine example of what happens when Bio gets out of control and gets to the point where he can just wreck those roaches. However, once that roach pack kind of melts away, we're going to see a lot of these Hydralisks die a very, very quick and gruesome death. There goes all the roaches, pretty much gone, and now we have a huge just DPS ball wrecking all of these Hydralisks. And look at that supply count fall. Chaz has been 30 or 40 supply ahead of Terran this entire time, and now they're pretty much equalizing. Wow, look at that resupply, 20 on 20, almost 30 Hydralisks being cranked out right now, but that completely eats away the bank of both players. I mean, both players are pretty much running on fumes right now. So Forsaken has a choice. Do I push out? Do I try to take an expansion to actually seal the deal here, or can I afford to sit back, relax, and resupply? And I think that's the correct decision. I mean, Forsaken's been exchanging very, very well. Look at this resources lost tab, very much in the favor of Terran right now, almost 2 to 3 in his odds. But if he decides to push out, if he gets a bad engagement on top of creep, that could be the end of the world, and that's exactly what's happening here. The roaches and the Hydralisks pushing in here. Does he have 3-3? He does have 3-3. I wasn't paying close enough attention. This is actually a fantastic engagement for Chaz. He's wrecking face right now with Forsaken. But what is this? A fresh swell of engagement down from the south side. Is it going to be enough to push back those Hydralisks? It is, just barely. Forsaken was really in dire straits. I mean, he only has maybe 5 Marauders that are alive from that initial push. Everything else is reinforcements. So Forsaken successfully moved out and successfully did quite a lot of damage to the army of his opponent, but both players are pretty much even on economically speaking. The natural is completely mined out for Chaz, and it looks like the natural is getting pretty sparse for Forsaken. So basically 2 expansion on 2 expansion, but with this hidden expansion in the top right hand side, even though it's only saturated sparsely by a handful of SCVs, that's still a major win for Forsaken. 72 over 55 for the harvester count. Then we can see that the mineral income's a little bit in his favor, Chaz's favor, and especially with the Overlord scouting out this planetary fortress in the top side, Chaz now knows he needs to be aggressive. 200 supply for 173. This is a great time for him to be aggressive. Has to be careful about pushing in here. Look at this, a lot more Marines being added to that mix rather than those Marauders. It's really cool to see both players reacting to what the other player is doing unit composition wise. We see more Roaches, less Roaches, more Marines, more Marauders. Very, very neat. Those Hydralisks are going to work on those Marines, though, and a healthy wall of Roaches up on the front side. But no, look at that concave. Look at that concave. Oh, man. Those Marauders absolutely melt away those Roaches. Hydralisks are the only ones left alive. Chaz, this time, really committing. Normally, he would have retreated. The previous Chaz we've been seeing, he definitely would have retreated. There is a drop going over here, but I do not want to take away from this action because Forsaken is just pushed back all the way to the brink. He's got 12 Marines and a handful of Marauders being produced right now, but his infrastructure is being camped on, and that is a terrible, terrible scenario. Speaking of pretty bad for the infrastructure, back at home, a handful of Hydralisks are cleaning up that drop. This is as close as you can possibly get. I cannot call. I don't even know who could possibly be in the lead. I guess with that hatchery going down, Forsaken has an economic edge, and now with those Hydralisks being cleaned up, they didn't do too much damage to the infrastructure. Handful of bunkers going down, handful of barracks also. Yeah, he did succeed in taking down a hatchery over here, getting a hatchery built over here. And look at his economy. It looks like 60. So he lost about 10 harvesters. His mineral income is cut in half. His bank is completely non-existent, so he's got a lot of gas saved up but not a lot of minerals, and so he's not going to be able to resupply very quickly, and that resupply has definitely kept him in this game. I mean, we've seen him go from 200 over 200 army down to 150 and then right back up to 190 or 200 because of his resupplying ability. So his macro is pristine. It's really, really good. It's just some of the engagement that Forsaken's been forcing have been in these choke points, in these few and far between choke points. What I was saying earlier was that this map definitely favors wide open engagements, which is fantastic whenever you have a really nice concave, making it so all of your Hydralisks can actually engage at one time. And the fact that Forsaken's forcing these engagements in these chokes is really keeping him in this game. The fact that Forsaken is keeping Chaz kind of corralled to his own bases to protect his own hatcheries, making it so he can't afford to send up the handful of units that's necessary in taking down this planetary fortress, is really, I cannot overstate the importance of that, because that's why Forsaken's still in this game, is because of that hidden expansion. Yeah, he's got 2 bases to the 2 bases of Chaz, but Chaz has really nice map control, and because he's been corralled, because he's been made uncomfortable, he hasn't been able to not only take and hold other expansions. I mean, the 2 mining bases are right next to each other, and he's barely holding in the drops that are coming out from Forsaken, and that's because of those drops. It's because of the pesky multitasking that's inherent to the Terran bio. Chaz does have a nice standing army, though. I mean, he's almost at maxed out supply with a lot of Hydras, a lot of Roaches. Here comes another drop. Will he succeed in the hatchery? He does. Oh, just barely. The drop off to the north side. He was expecting another hatchery to have been built here. It looks like he's going to be lifting off, maybe dropping down here, maybe not, maybe making his way to the main. I'm not 100% sure, but with that hatchery going down, Chaz is being faced with an ultimatum. I mean, do I move out and try for game-ending damage, or do I think I can stabilize? And I really don't see how Chaz can stabilize. The bases that he can afford to take, yeah, maybe down here on the left-hand side, but if he does that, he should expect to lose all of his infrastructure back at home. And Forsaken knows that. As soon as the enemy army moved out, he's pushing up, making sure that this hatchery cannot be retaken, so that Chaz is put in a very uncomfortable position. This is definitely the final battle, guys. And look at that concave already set up, absolutely perfect, retreating into the Widow Mine, and the Widow Mine detonations go off, really softening up a bunch of those Roaches. The Roaches do a great job of tanking all that damage, but the Terran army is just... man, is it brutal. It's so brutal, but those Hydralisks are just barely still alive. These Roaches are incredibly weak right now. If Forsaken decides to turn, those Roaches do go away very, very quickly, and then those Hydralisks are going to be left completely unprotected. And it looks like Forsaken is just retreating just to get a fresh swell of units, and is going to turn once again. Just expect to see another stem. There's the other stem. Right there. Yes, awesome. Another stem, and he gets right on top of those Hydralisks, and they go down. Chaz is aware that that was his entire standing army. He taps out. Fantastic. That was so great. That was really, really good. Like I said, I had one game that I could cast tonight, and I was like, do I cast the longest game in the batch, or do I cast the shortest game in the batch? And I decided on the longest one because it's been a while since I casted anything fantastic. That was so good. Oh my goodness, that was awesome. Oh, you know who else is awesome? People who watch my videos. So thanks for that. If you have a game you want me to cast, you could PM me here or on Reddit. One way or another, I will see you guys later. I am Big and Scary. Bye.